So let's be honest, Project Motor Racing didn't exactly have the smoothest launch. When it first dropped, the expectations were pretty damn high. A new hardcore racing sim promising deep physics, serious competition, and a fresh alternative to the usual giants in the genre. But what players actually got, well, it felt unfinished, to put it bluntly, rough around the edges and sometimes quite frustrating. And for a lot of people, myself included, it just didn't click. Because this was a sim that promised a great experience for seasoned veterans with proper setups and for newcomers literally playing on controller. Like me. But anyway, it's actually kinda good now. It's improved. Like seriously improved. So in this video we're gonna break down exactly what's changed, why this update matters, and whether this is finally the racing sim we were hoping for in the first place. My name is Kledge, and this is Project Motor Racing, the comeback that nobody expected. So before we dive into the features, we do need to talk about the bigger picture. What makes Update 2.0 so important isn't just what's in it, it's what it represents, because it means the developers have spent months listening to feedback, not just minor tweaks and quick patches, but some actual meaningful change. They've been working with the community, with sim racers and testers, and it does show. This isn't a band-aid update or a quick fix, it's a proper reset, a new baseline, the kind of update that says, okay, now we're building the game we actually meant to make in the first place. And honestly, that's something we don't always see in this genre. So let's start with the first thing you'll notice the second you boot up the game, and that's the user interface, because, well, it needed work, let's be honest. At launch the menus were a bit clunky, they were kind of dated, to be honest. It wasn't always clear where to go, what settings did, or how to quickly jump into what you actually wanted to do. Now, well, the difference is night and day. The entire UI has been rebuilt from the ground up with clarity and speed in mind. Everything feels smoother, cleaner, faster. You're no longer fighting the menu just to actually play the game, and that alone makes a huge difference in how the game feels to play. But the real upgrade here isn't just visual, it's the tooltips. This is one of those changes that sounds small, but is actually massive. Every key setting, especially things like car setup and force feedback, now comes with contextual explanations. So instead of guessing what a slider does or googling settings, the game actually teaches you, and for someone like me who's not very knowledgeable on the inner workings of cars, racing, that's quite a big deal. Because now whether you're a beginner or experienced, you can actually understand how your changes affect the car. It lowers the barrier to entry without actually dumbing anything down, and that's exactly what a good sim should do. So another subtle but important addition is the ECU widget. This is essentially a real-time information display whilst you're driving, giving you data as it happens. And while that might not sound flashy, it adds a layer of immersion that was missing before. You're more connected to the car and more informed, and in turn, more in control. And in a racing sim, that connection is kind of everything. Now before I go on about the game anymore, if you're a fan of racing games, sim or arcade, then why not consider hitting that subscribe button and tapping the bell for notifications to stay up to date with my future uploads. Perhaps you'll get to watch me eventually get good at sim races and maybe even have a proper setup. Anyway, let's talk about the big one, because no matter how good the menus are or how clean the UI is, if the driving doesn't feel right, none of it matters anyway. And this is where Project Motor Racing, at least in my opinion, struggled the most at launch. The cars didn't always communicate clearly, the grip felt inconsistent, the limit was hard to read, and when you lost control, it often felt sudden and unpredictable. And that's been completely reworked. The devs describe driving as a conversation between the car and the driver, and Update 2.0 is all about improving that conversation. They've worked with experienced sim racers and devs to refine how cars behave at the limit, and more importantly, how that behaviour is communicated to you. So what does that actually mean in practice? Well, it means the cars feel more progressive, more predictable, and most importantly, more understandable. You can actually feel the grip building and fading. You can sense when you're pushing too far before it's too late. And also sometimes after it's too late because I'm really stupid. But when you do lose it, as I say, it's my mistake, not the game's, and that's a huge shift. So let's just break down and list some of those key changes. So these are from the devs. The grip to slip transitions are now smoother and more predictable. The braking stability has been improved, which means no more random lockups out of nowhere. Traction control and ABS feel more natural and less intrusive. Throttle response, especially for turbo cars, has been refined. Force feedback is clearer and more detailed, which would, be better for wheel users, not for me on a controller. But even collisions between cars feel more believable. And these aren't just small tweaks, they fundamentally change how confident you feel behind the wheel. Because now you can actually trust the car, and you can push harder, and when you can push harder, that's when this kind of game actually becomes fun. And on top of this, multiple car classes have also been updated, including GT, GTE, GT4, and the Porsche 992 Cup. And the standout here is the NGT class. The devs specifically mentioned that this class has one of the most evolved tyre models in the game right now. So if you want to feel what the update's really about, that's probably the class to try. And on top of that, the Mazda MX-5 Cup car has been completely rebuilt. I haven't tested it myself yet, but apparently everything has been changed and it's essentially a new car. So again, if you want to see what the update's like, go check that out as well. Now let's talk about the multiplayer, because this is another area where the game needed some serious work. Online racing really is the heart of most modern sims, but it only works if players actually trust the system. And at launch, that trust definitely wasn't fully there. Update 2.0 takes a big step in fixing that. First, there's now an anti-cheat system, which, is kind of essential. The racing would kind of fall apart without it. And then there's the license point system, which encourages cleaner driving and creates a more structured competitive environment. Basically, the game now rewards good behavior and not just raw speed. And that's huge for long-term player retention. On top of that, online sessions are smoother, there's back-end support for instant reporting. It all kind of adds up to something simple but powerful. The online racing is more reliable, more fair, and now more worth your time. So let's move on to career mode, which is where I've been spending the bulk of my time. It's one of the most surprising improvements in this update. To be honest, at launch it felt kind of pointless, just a series of disconnected events without much meaning. Now it's like an actual journey. You progress through a championship ladder, working toward the goal of winning 15 different titles. There's structure, there's direction, there's purpose, and that changes literally everything about the career mode. It no longer feels pointless. They've also added real-world sponsors, better event messaging, new podium celebrations, and improved progression systems. Even the race engineer and spotter have more voice lines, which helps bring everything to life. It's still not perfect, and there's more coming in future updates, but it finally feels like a mode worth investing your time into. Beyond the gameplay, there's also a range of visual and performance upgrades. The lighting's been improved, which makes the races feel more atmospheric, performance is more stable. I found when I first played the game it was very stuttery, and thankfully that appears to have mostly been ironed out now. And while a lot of these changes happen behind the scenes, they make a big difference in how polished the game feels overall. It's smoother and more consistent, and again, it helps bring back some of that trust that was lost at the beginning of the game. So what does all of this actually add up to? It's not just a better version of the same game, it's a completely different experience. One that feels more complete, more intentional, more confident in what it's trying to be. And maybe most importantly, it feels like a game that's finally listening to its players. So the big question, is Project Motor Racing worth playing now? Honestly, yes. Yes it is. If you bounced off the game like me at launch, this is absolutely the time to come back. If you were on the fence, this is the version you were probably waiting for. And if you're a hardcore sim racer looking for something new, whilst I can't speak for all of you because I'm not one of you, I would say this is now a legitimate contender. It's not perfect, there's still work to be done, but there's a really strong foundation here. Finally. Now hopefully Update 2.0 isn't the finish line, it's the starting grid, and if the developers keep this momentum going, keep listening, keep refining and so on, this could end up being something really special. So yeah, it took a while, but this might just be one of the better comeback stories we've seen in the video game world. So let me know, have you tried the update? Is the update going to sway you to buy the game? Share all your thoughts in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like, and if you haven't done so, please consider hitting that subscribe button and tapping the bell to stay up to date. A massive shout out to my Patreon subscribers for the continued support, and all I really have left to say is thank you and goodbye.